I speak now in a low and certain voice, as I did in parlors and drawing rooms long ago. There is a divine law that answers the word. When your word is orderly, your good hastens to you. Your first million is not a hunter. You are the magnet. See it as I saw it in old New York at daybreak, a pale mist resting on the brownstone steps, a shopkeeper lifting a rattling metal gate, the street still perfumed with ink from the printing press. A woman stands at a window with her small purse open, counting the last coins against the light. I know the ache that rises in her throat, the silent arithmetic of worry. I place my hand upon the sill and say to her, "And to you the law is not moved by panic. It is moved by the word. You have been taught to chase, to bargain, to wrestle with your good, as though it were a runaway carriage. Nonsense. Hear me. You do not run after your good. Your good, by law, runs after you. When the word is set in order, when your inner decree is straight as a plumb line, supply must obey. Life is a faithful mirror. It cannot show lack to the one who speaks abundance with authority. But there is a condition most ignore, and it is why so many say, "It did not work for me." They listen and nod, and then keep their word locked behind their teeth. They leave the decree unspoken, the gate unraised, the letter unmailed, and so the universe waits, polite, orderly, unwilling to trespass upon an undecided soul. If you wish the money to pursue you, you must first make your announcement to heaven and earth. I am ready to be found. Do it now and do it publicly. Yes, write it. Not later, not once you feel more certain. The act is the certainty. The declaration is the key that fits the invisible lock. Most will not write it, and that is precisely why the current does not turn in their favor. But you will, because you understand that divine law answers the spoken and the written word as a command, not a wish. Pause, breathe, let the lamps of your imagination flicker on, and set this seal upon your day. In the comments, write exactly this: Estoy preparado para recibir. Say it as if you were signing your name in a sacred ledger, because until you declare to the universe that you are prepared to receive, your wealth will remain a courteous visitor who never crosses the threshold. Declare it now, and the footfall of your good will quicken down the corridor of time. The moment you write, the law begins to move. Life is a mirror. What you hold within, your world must reflect. I have said it countless times to the men and women who have come to my parlor, their hats in hand, their hearts heavy with worry. They sit before me, their eyes dimmed by effort and disappointment, and I tell them gently, you do not receive what you ask for, you receive what you expect. You do not live what you desire, you live what you believe. When you merely ask, your words tremble with uncertainty. They sound like someone knocking at a closed door, hoping it might open. But when you decree, the tone changes. It is not a question, it is law. A decree speaks as one who already stands within the room. Many have been taught to plead with life, to beg with words such as "please send me enough." Yet begging places you below your good, as if you were unworthy of what already belongs to you. The law does not answer the beggar, it answers the commander who speaks in alignment with truth. I have watched it happen again and again. When a woman says, "I hope money will come," her hope floats like mist, beautiful but weightless. When she says, "Money comes to me now," easily and in perfect order, something shifts. Her voice becomes a current, and the universe begins its movement toward her. You see, the world does not hear your words as mere sound. It hears the conviction beneath them. A timid request carries no creative fire, but a decree, spoken from faith, rings like a bell across the invisible. It rearranges circumstances, draws opportunities from far corners, and stirs what once was dormant. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing before a great mirror, taller than the walls of your room, its surface shining with a faint golden light. When you speak into it with doubt, your reflection wavers and breaks apart. But when you speak with certainty, with calm authority, the image steadies. Your reflection answers with the same strength you have given. That mirror is life itself. It never judges, never argues. It simply repeats you. And so I tell my students, never say, "I want." Wanting is the language of absence. Instead, speak the language of possession. Say, "I have," even before your eyes can see it. For spirit sees before sight, and the mirror of life reflects not your circumstances, but your consciousness. Every morning, When I rise, I place my hand upon my chest and say, quietly but firmly, all that is mine by divine right now comes to me with ease and perfect timing. Then I go about my day, not looking for proof, but living as though the proof were already here. And it always arrives, often in ways the mind could never design. Remember, life is exact. It cannot reflect peace from a mind of fear, nor prosperity from a heart of lack. But when the inner picture is one of faith, gratitude, and expectancy, the outer world must take on that same image. The law of reflection is not partial. It does not choose favorites. It is impersonal, like the mirror itself. It gives you yourself, magnified. And when you dare to speak as one already supplied, the universe bows to your decree. So I say again, not as philosophy, but as lived truth. Life is a mirror, what you hold within. Your world must reflect. I remember her well, Clara, a seamstress on the west side of New York, in the early 1920s. Her hands were small, always red from the needle, her back slightly bent from long hours at the table. Each night I would see her lamp glowing through the window as I walked home from my lectures. The streets were quiet then, the city asleep, except for the few souls like Clara, stitching their hope into each piece of cloth. One afternoon she came to me, after one of my talks. She carried a little parcel, wrapped in brown paper, her week's work inside. I could see in her eyes the strain of a woman who had done everything right, and yet could not seem to get ahead. Her words trembled as she said, "Mrs. Shinn, I work from dawn until midnight, and still my rent is late. I am always behind." Ah, that phrase, "I am behind." It struck me like the clang of a wrong note. I looked at her and said gently, "My dear, it is not your hands that are weary, it is your words that are wrong. Life can only echo what you declare. If you keep saying I am behind, the law must arrange the world to prove you right." I took a small pamphlet from my bag, the one titled The Game of Life, and How to Play It, and marked a passage for her. I told her to read it every morning and every night until her words changed their rhythm. The next day, she replaced that old phrase with a new decree. I am fully supplied by divine right. She did not chase after customers, nor beg her patrons for mercy. She merely worked in peace, repeating her truth like a sacred rhythm. I am fully supplied by divine right. A week later, something remarkable happened. One of her former customers, a woman of means who had long forgotten her, appeared at her door. She had a larger commission, and this time she paid in advance, insisting upon Clara's workmanship for the season's wardrobe. Clara came to see me again, her eyes shining with disbelief. It was as though she had been searching for me, she said, and I smiled, for I knew the truth. It was not the woman who sought her, it was her own word that had gone forth, working in the unseen, arranging the meeting. When the inner decree turned, money recognized her. It found her by the law of reflection. She did not run after it. Her word brought it home. That is the secret I long for every soul to understand. The world is your obedient servant, not your master. You have only to speak with authority, as one who knows that divine supply never forgets an address. As I told Clara that evening, the universe has a perfect memory. Once you declare your good, it begins its journey toward you. It may come by letter, by chance encounter, or by the knock of an old patron at your door, but come it must, and it did. After teaching these truths for many years, I have learned that the smallest act, when performed in faith, carries more power than 1,000 anxious efforts. Anxiety, you see, is simply misplaced imagination. It paints the very picture you fear, and then orders the universe to make it real. When my students came to me trembling about their finances, I would tell them, replace every anxious thought with a lawful decree. For every sigh of worry, speak instead a word of divine command. Say, "Infinite supply, reveal thy channels." Say it not as a plea, but as a direction given to an unseen servant who knows exactly what to do. In my time, there were no telephones in every hand, no swift messages carried across the air, but the law of vibration was already known to those who listened with the heart. Your word travels farther than any machine could send it. It carries your faith like a sealed letter through the invisible, until it is delivered in perfect form. I recall once telling a young man who feared he would lose his position, "Do not rehearse your dismissal, rehearse your gratitude." And so he rose each morning and said, "Thank you, infinite intelligence, for keeping me in my right place." Within a fortnight, The very supervisor who had threatened to let him go recommended him for a higher post. Why? Because his inner world had shifted from fear to faith, and the outer world reflected it precisely. Faith must be practiced not only in word but in action. The law delights in order. When you bring order to your outer life, you proclaim silently that divine order reigns within. In my day, that might mean saving a subway fare to mail a letter of thanks to someone who has blessed you. It might mean polishing your shoes before an interview, even if they are your only pair. It might mean setting your table neatly, even when you dine alone. These are not vain gestures, they are declarations. Each one says to the universe, I am prepared for the greater good that is on its way. When you act in this spirit, you align your outer world with the harmony of the inner decree. The tone of your voice changes, your step lightens, and opportunities, those unseen messengers of the divine, begin to recognize your vibration and move toward you. Do not think that great miracles require grand performances. The law listens to the quiet order of your day. Fold your garments neatly. Pay what you owe with gratitude. Bless every coin that passes through your hand. Each of these simple acts is a prayer in motion, a statement to the infinite that you live by law, not by luck. So begin there. Let every anxious word be replaced with a decree of peace. Let every small act carry the dignity of faith. For when order reigns within, prosperity cannot help but appear without. Your word is your wand. It is the instrument through which the unseen becomes seen, the invisible becomes visible, and thought takes the form of matter. I have said it often, and I shall say it again. Every word you speak stamps itself upon the subconscious mind, and the subconscious, being obedient but without reasoning power, must reproduce it in your outer world. The subconscious is like a faithful servant who never questions, never delays, and never forgets. It receives every word as an order to be carried out, quietly, precisely, without emotion. And so, if you continually say, I cannot afford it, your servant runs about arranging conditions to make that statement true. If instead you decree, what is mine by divine right now comes to me in perfect ways, that same servant begins gathering your good, drawing opportunities, people, and ideas that match your command. This is not imagination, it is law. The vibration of your speech moves through the invisible substance of life, shaping it, directing it, compelling it into form. Your words are not idle, they are the chisels that carve your destiny. I once told a woman who came to me burdened by debt, my dear, you have been using your wand against yourself. You have been casting spells of lack without realizing it. She looked startled, so I explained. Every complaint, every fearful sentence is a wand waved in the dark. But when you speak words of faith and gratitude, you wave that wand in the light, and creation obeys in kind. It is remarkable how swiftly life changes when one learns to guard the tongue. A woman who says, money slips through my fingers, will watch it do so faithfully. Another who says, everything I touch prospers and multiplies, will soon find evidence of that truth in her daily affairs. The subconscious cannot distinguish jest from earnestness, sarcasm from sincerity. It knows only the command. So if you say lightly, I'm always unlucky, your faithful servant will go forth to make you right. But if you speak with reverence, everything unfolds in divine order for my highest good. The same law will rearrange the very fabric of your life to fulfill that decree. I remember once when I was very young, I used to paint and illustrate little cards with verses on them. I would sit for hours choosing the words, because even then I sensed that what I wrote carried power. It was not the drawing that sold those cards. It was the feeling the words conveyed. People told me they felt lucky after reading them. It was not luck, it was vibration. Your words are carriers of vibration. They announce to the universe the pattern of your inner belief. Speak with care, for your speech sets in motion a chain of cause and effect that never fails. So I urge you, let your phrases be simple, clean, and fearless. Replace I cannot afford it with the money for this. Comes easily and under grace. Replace I am unlucky with everything works in my favor. Replace it's too late with divine timing is perfect and it works for me now. For the universe is ever listening, ever ready to reproduce your command. And when your word becomes one with faith, your wand is alive with power. There was once a man named Daniel, a quiet soul who worked as a clerk in a shipping office downtown. I remember his hands, ink-stained, careful, always folding papers with precision. He was honest to a fault, yet perpetually anxious. Though he lived simply and worked faithfully, his pay never seemed to stretch far enough. One evening, after a lecture, he lingered by the doorway and said to me, "Mrs. Shinn, I have read your books. I believe you mean well, but I cannot reconcile wealth with goodness. I've seen how money changes people. It makes them proud, selfish, dishonest. Surely it is safer to remain poor and pure." I looked at him for a long moment before I spoke. "Daniel," I said softly, "money does not corrupt, it magnifies. If a man is generous, money will make him more so. If he is selfish, money will only reveal it sooner. Wealth has no morals of its own. It takes its character from the consciousness that holds it." He frowned, still doubtful. "But Mrs. Shinn," he said, "I fear that to want wealth is to invite temptation." "Wanting," I replied, "is the problem. You must not want wealth, you must accept it as your rightful inheritance. Refusing your good does not make you virtuous, it only makes you disobedient to the law of supply. You are not asked to chase riches, only to become a clear channel through which they can flow." I gave him a decree, and told him to repeat it morning and night, especially whenever guilt or fear rose up within him. The decree was simple: "I am fearless in receiving the good that belongs to me by divine right." He wrote it neatly on a card, and kept it in the inside pocket of his coat. At first he said it quietly, almost apologetically, but as the days passed, his voice grew steadier. Each repetition washed away a little more of his old belief that goodness required lack. A fortnight later, he returned to me, his face alight with wonder. "Something curious has happened," he said. "The company has offered me a promotion, with higher pay and better hours. They said they'd been watching my work for years, and it was time to reward it." I smiled and asked, "And how do you feel about being a man of means now?" He laughed softly. "Different," he said. "I realize that money hasn't changed me. It's only made it easier to be who I already was. I can give more, help more, live more freely. I was never afraid of money itself, only of what I imagined it might make me." That was the lesson he needed, and one every soul must learn sooner or later. Wealth is not moral or immoral. Consciousness lends it meaning. If you are ruled by fear, money becomes your master. But when your mind is illumined by faith, money becomes your servant. Daniel walked away that night a freer man, not because of his new salary, but because he had cleansed the idea of wealth from superstition. His word had changed, and therefore his world. I have seen that look upon so many faces, the strain face I call it. The jaw tight, the brow drawn, the eyes darting from worry to worry, as though they might find peace by calculation. I've watched men and women bend over ledgers late into the night, their lips moving in silent arithmetic, measuring how little remains and how much more is owed. They speak of faith, but their hands are clenched in fear. When you strive from fear, you are like a fisherman thrashing in the water. Your good slips away the harder you grasp. What you pursue in panic flees. What you bless in faith returns. I have learned that the moment you stop forcing, the tide begins to turn. I often told my students, cease running after debtors, cease knocking on doors that remain closed. Instead, bless what you are owed, and let it find its rightful way back to you. For blessing is magnetic, resistance repels, but blessing attracts. The law does not respond to strain, it responds to serenity. When you are at peace, your energy is pure command. When you are anxious, it is contradiction. The universe cannot deliver to a mind divided between fear and faith. So I tell them, unclench your jaw, still your mind, and whisper this truth: what belongs to me by divine right cannot be withheld. It returns to me under grace. And soon enough, it does quietly, naturally, as the tide returns to the shore once the storm is over. Lucia was a saleslady in a small department store on 8th Avenue. A bright girl, well-spoken, and diligent, yet she lived in constant tension. Her pay depended on commissions, and she hunted each sale like prey. I would often see her rushing about, nervous, smiling too quickly, her spirit bound by the desperate arithmetic of enough. One afternoon she attended one of my talks, and afterward she said, "Mrs. Shinn, I'm tired. I feel like I chase everything: money, customers, approval, and still, I'm always behind." I told her gently, "My dear, the law of your good cannot operate while you are in pursuit. The moment you stop chasing, you will be found." Lucia laughed softly, thinking it impossible, but she listened. I advised her to practice a new decree every morning before entering the store. "I am at peace. My good seeks me now. I am a magnet for right opportunity." And I asked her to take her evenings, those precious hours she usually spent counting receipts, and use them for something that made her heart light. So she began inviting a few neighborhood women to her small apartment, where by lamplight she read aloud passages from scripture and little pieces of inspiration. They would share tea, speak of faith, and lift one another's hearts. It was a small circle, but filled with joy. Weeks later, she returned to me with tears shining in her eyes. "It's extraordinary," she said. "Customers now come to me without effort. Old clients have returned and recommended me to their friends. I'm earning more than before, and yet I feel lighter, calmer." That is how the law works, not through chase, but through correspondence. The peace she cultivated within her little gatherings became the vibration of her outer world. Her income became steady, dignified, easeful, not because she ran faster, but because she stopped running at all. I told her, "You have found the secret of non-resistance. You have ceased rowing against the current. Now the tide itself carries you. Now close your eyes for a moment and imagine a lake at dawn. The air is still, the sky pale with the first light. If you toss a stone into the water, ripples distort the surface. You can no longer see your reflection clearly. But as the ripples fade, the surface becomes smooth as glass once more, and the reflection returns, perfect, calm, undisturbed. That lake is your mind. The ripples are your worries, your doubts, your frantic calculations, and the reflection that is your decree. When the surface is still, the law reflects your word with exact precision. But if you churn the waters with fear, the reflection breaks. So be still and know. Be still, and your decree is mirrored perfectly in form. Be still, and the law works. There is a rhythm that governs all of life: the in-breath and the out-breath, the ebb and the flow, the give and the receive. The same rhythm rules money, though few understand it. Many grasp their coins so tightly that the very act of holding becomes an order to the universe. "I have no more to give," and so the flow stops. But when you open your hand, when you give with love, bless what leaves you, and trust that what departs must return multiplied, you enter into the divine rhythm. Life cannot fill a closed vessel. It pours itself only into the open. I have seen the fearful hoard and lose, and the faithful give and prosper. For the universe does not respond to the measure of your gift, but to the spirit in which it is given. The law of circulation is perfect. What you give forth with joy you summon back in kind. I have often said that money, like the breath, must flow in and out freely to sustain life. Try holding your breath, and you will feel at once the discomfort of resistance. It is the same with wealth. When you withhold from fear, you choke the very current that sustains your good. When you give in faith, you open the channels through which abundance must return. Money is not a cold thing made of paper and metal. It is the pulse of exchange, the heartbeat of divine circulation. Every coin is a messenger, carrying your faith or your fear into the invisible and returning with results that match your vibration. I have seen people confuse prudence with miserliness. Prudence is peaceful order. Miserliness is fear disguised as wisdom. Prudence says, "I use what I have wisely, knowing there is always more." Miserliness says, "I dare not give, for there may be no more to come." And the law responds to each exactly as spoken. Orderly generosity is the key. Give, but not recklessly. Save, but not fearfully. Every gift should carry a blessing. Every expenditure, a note of gratitude. For when you bless what leaves your hand, you declare it part of a living current, and the current always returns. So I tell my students, do not dam the river with worry. The water of life flows by faith. Ernest was a quiet man who worked as a bookkeeper for a shipping company near the docks. He lived alone in a small room and kept his savings in a tin box beneath his bed. Every week he would open it, count the coins carefully, then hide them away again, never spending a cent more than he must. He came to one of my classes one winter evening, his brow furrowed. "Mrs. Shinn," he said, "I do not gamble, I do not drink, I work hard and save. but somehow I never get ahead. It seems that each month something unexpected happens. A doctor's bill, a repair, a debt, and my money vanishes. What am I doing wrong? I smiled, for I had seen this pattern before. You are not circulating your good, I told him. You are imprisoning it. And like any prisoner, it longs to escape. He looked puzzled. But if I give it away, won't I have even less? No, I replied gently. You will have more. The law of circulation demands movement. You need not give away fortunes. Begin with a gesture of love. Release a little of what you hold, and bless it as it goes. Say, I now let the good I hold go forth in love, and it returns increased. He hesitated, but he promised to try. The following week, he began small. He bought postage stamps for an elderly widow who wrote to her son overseas. He purchased a pair of warm gloves for a porter who swept the entrance of his building. Each time he repeated the decree I had given him. Not 2 weeks later, Ernest came to see me again, his entire manner transformed. Something remarkable has happened, he said, astonished. A client who owed the company for months has finally paid in full, and my employer, quite without my asking, has offered me a new position with a salary increase. He laughed, still shaking his head in disbelief. It seems the moment I opened my hand, life opened hers, and I told him, of course it did. The current that flows through you is the same current that flows through the universe. When you give with love, you set the tide in motion. It cannot help but return multiplied. Ernest kept that practice all his days, and from that time forward, his finances were never anxious again. If you wish to keep your prosperity alive and growing, bless every coin that passes through your hands. Do not sigh as you pay a bill. Instead, whisper, I bless and increase this. Imagine the money leaving you as a golden thread, extending into the world to do good, and know that it will return, shining brighter than before. When times are lean and the purse is light, give what you can that costs nothing. A kind word, a letter of recommendation, an introduction between friends. These are tithes of kindness, and the law counts them as gold. It is not the size of the gift, but the spirit in which it is given that sets the universe in motion. Give with joy, give with trust, and your life will mirror that generosity. For as surely as the heart must beat and the lungs must breathe, so must the current of your good flow forth and return. The moment you bless the movement of your money, the moment you give without fear, you join yourself to the rhythm of divine abundance. And in that rhythm, there is never lack, only circulation, only increase. There is a perfect rhythm to life, a divine bookkeeping that never errs. I call it the ledger of heaven. Every thought, every act of faith, every word spoken in alignment with truth is recorded there, and what is written in that ledger can never be lost. When I feel impatience stirring, I remind myself of a sacred phrase that has never failed me. What is mine by divine right cannot be kept from me. Those words have the strength of eternal law within them. Your good once decreed is as sure as the sunrise. It may not arrive when the clock demands it, but it always comes when divine order permits it. There is a vast difference between haste and holy timing. Haste is born of fear. It rushes, it frets, it doubts. Holy timing, on the other hand, is serene. It trusts the unseen intelligence that arranges all affairs in perfect sequence. The law is exact. It cannot make a mistake, nor can it be hurried. In my years of teaching, I have seen the ruin caused by impatience and the miracles that unfold through calm expectancy. When you try to force results, you take the matter from divine hands into your own, and then wonder why it falls apart. But when you say, I release this into divine order, you hand your burden back to the infinite scheduler of the universe, and what once seemed tangled becomes beautifully aligned. I recall a gentleman who came to me in great distress. He was the owner of a small printing business, and he had just lost a valuable contract to another firm. Mrs. Shinn, he said, it's unfair. I needed that job desperately. I've done good work for them before, and yet they've chosen another printer. I could feel the strain in his voice, the heat of wounded pride and fear. I said to him, let us not curse the appearance of loss. Let us bless it and put it in the hands of divine order. He looked at me with doubt. Bless it? How can I bless what's been taken from me? I smiled gently and replied, my dear, nothing that is truly yours can ever be taken. Say instead, if this contract is mine by divine right, it returns to me. If not, something better appears. Speak it calmly, with faith, and then let it go. He promised to do so, though reluctantly, and left my office with a heavy sigh. 2 weeks later, he returned, smiling, this time. "You'll never believe it," he said. "The company that gave the job to my competitor has come back. It seems the other printer misplaced the original plates and couldn't meet the deadline. They've asked me to take over, and not only that, the order has doubled in size." I nodded and said, "You see, there is no rivalry in spirit. Your good is marked with your name. No one else can claim it, and no mistake can keep it from you. Divine order is never late, only exact." He laughed, shaking his head. "I suppose the ledger was already balanced," he said, and indeed it was. When you live by this truth, envy and competition dissolve. You cease to grasp at what belongs to others and rest in the assurance that what is yours will find its way home. I have a simple practice that I teach to those who struggle with doubt or impatience. Each morning, take a small card, no larger than the palm of your hand, and upon it, write one clear decree. Only one. Simplicity sharpens the power. For example, divine order is now established in my life and affairs. Or what is mine by divine right comes to me easily and without delay. Carry this card with you through the day. Slip it into your coat pocket or handbag. And whenever fear begins to whisper, while waiting in the grocer's queue, sitting on the streetcar, or just before stepping into an interview, take out the card and read your decree softly under your breath. The act itself is small, but its effect is mighty. It anchors your mind in faith, reminding you that there is an invisible scheduler arranging all things for your good. I do this still. Many a time I have taken the streetcar down Fifth Avenue, whispering into the hum of the wheels, "Divine order is now working in my affairs." And without fail, whatever seemed uncertain soon found its perfect arrangement. So write your decree, keep it close. Let it remind you that heaven keeps perfect records, and that your good, marked with your name, is already on its way. There is within every soul a quiet guide, a soft and certain whisper that speaks without words. I call it the silent messenger, but many know it as intuition. It is never anxious, never hurried. It does not argue or plead, it simply knows. And when you learn to listen, life begins to unfold like a page already written. Intuition is the direct voice of the spirit within. It is the line between the invisible and the visible, the delicate thread through which divine mind communicates with your human affairs. When your mind is restless, you drown it out, but when you are still, you can hear its gentle instructions. It may come as the simplest impulse: take the earlier train, turn left at the florist, bring your portfolio. You will not know why, but if you obey without question, you will find that unseen doors open, delays are avoided, and opportunities meet you at the very moment you arrive. I have often said to my students, intuition never shouts, it whispers. But the one who obeys the whisper becomes a master of the visible world. The voice of reasoning will always demand explanation. The voice of intuition requires only trust, and that is why so many miss it. They wish to understand before they obey. But faith acts first and sees later. I remember once rising 1 hour earlier than usual, compelled by no reason I could name, and feeling urged to post a letter that had sat on my desk for days. Later that morning, I learned that the recipient was leaving town by noon. The letter had reached him just in time. The law had spoken through intuition, and I had listened. If you would learn to prosper easily, begin here. Make peace with silence. The mind must grow quiet before it can receive direction. God cannot write on moving waters, so still yourself each morning, if only for a few minutes. Breathe deeply and inwardly say, "I am guided by the light within. I hear clearly and I obey faithfully." And then when the nudge comes, act at once. Rebecca was a young designer I once knew, gifted with a delicate hand and an artist's eye. She created ornate letter designs and book covers, beautiful work, though few knew her name. For years she struggled to find clients. Publishers in New York were crowded with applicants, and she often told me she felt invisible among so many. One gray morning, she came to me discouraged. "Mrs. Shinn," she said, "I have prayed, affirmed, and worked, but still, no opportunity comes." I smiled gently. "Perhaps the answer has already come," I said, "but you have not yet heard it. Tell me, what has your intuition been saying?" She hesitated. "I keep feeling that I should send one of my sample books to a certain publisher uptown, But I don't know anyone there. It feels foolish. Then do it, I said at once. If the impulse is gentle and free of strain, it is divine guidance. The law rarely explains itself. It simply instructs. Obey quickly, and let the universe reveal its purpose. She nodded, though still uncertain, and that very afternoon she wrapped her portfolio and posted it. 3 days later, she returned with her eyes alight. You were right, Mrs. Shinn. The publisher received my book the same morning their artist resigned. They said they had been searching for a replacement, and my portfolio was on their desk at that exact hour. They've offered me the contract, and the payment terms are far more generous than I dared to imagine. I smiled. You see, Rebecca, intuition always arrives before the visible opportunity. The messenger is never late. Only our listening is. She went on to build a fine career, not through anxious seeking, but through trust in the unseen voice that guided her every step. And each time she hesitated, she would remember that first nudge and how it had opened a door without clamor. Each morning, before the noise of the world enters, I ask 3 questions in the stillness of my room. You may ask them too. They are simple, yet they align your will with the divine design of the day. What is mine to do? What is mine to say? Where is mine to go? And then I wait, quietly, for the answer, not with impatience, but with faith. Sometimes it comes at once, a clear impulse or image. Other times it arrives hours later, disguised as coincidence, a chance meeting, or a sudden knowing. Do not rush to fill the silence. The answer always comes when your heart is peaceful enough to receive it. I give you this promise. Say only what you can speak without strain. Do only what feels light and orderly. Go only where peace accompanies your steps. These are the signs of divine direction. The universe never commands through tension. And remember this, when intuition leads, provision follows. The moment you take the step you are guided to take, the next one appears. The bridge builds itself beneath your feet. So, each morning, before the city stirs, whisper the 3 sacred questions and listen. The silent messenger waits to guide you, and if you follow its voice faithfully, you will find that every door opens in its appointed hour, and every good you seek already knows your path. Each morning, before the day has yet gathered its noise, I begin with what I call the ritual of the first million. It is not a ceremony of gold or grandeur. It is a ceremony of remembrance. I rise while the light is still tender, when the city's hum is a distant murmur, and I place my hand upon my heart. In that gesture, I recognize the great treasury of the universe pulsing within me. It is from this place that all supply flows, not from banks or employers, not from chance or luck, but from the invisible source that never withholds. Then, I speak softly, before a single coin has exchanged hands, before any evidence has appeared. Thank you, Infinite Spirit, for the provision already given. My supply is full, my channels open, my abundance assured. Gratitude before evidence, that is the secret key. The one who waits to see before giving thanks has not yet learned faith. But the one who blesses the unseen calls it swiftly into form. After the decree, I close my eyes and visualize a golden circuit of energy, flowing in a perfect circle. It begins in the divine source, descends gently through me, and moves outward, toward those I serve, those I bless, those who cross my path. Then, like a tide returning to its shore, it circles back to me, multiplied, purified, radiant. This is the true flow of wealth, from source, through you, to service, and back again. Never stagnant, never strained. You are not the owner of abundance, you are its conductor. And the cleaner your channel, the calmer your heart, the swifter it flows. I perform this each morning, as naturally as one might light a lamp before the day's work. For when the lamp is lit within, all that is yours will find its way home. At day's end, when the lamplight grows soft, and the weight of human concerns presses upon the mind, I turn again to the law, not to ask, but to release. Many carry a secret ledger of anxiety, a mental book where they record what is missing, who owes them, what has not yet come to pass. But these ledgers are heavy, and the hands that cling to them cannot receive. So each evening, I open the invisible book before the altar of the heart and say, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. Those words are not resignation, they are command. hand. For when you surrender your fears to the divine mind within you, the law begins its silent accounting. It balances the figures, erases the debts, and restores the harmony your worry disrupted. Then I visualize a great document floating in radiant light, a bill of lading from the heavenly warehouse, as it were, and upon it, written in elegant script, is my name. Beneath it, stamped and sealed, are the words "Goods in transit, by divine order." That vision is enough. I need not know the route or the hour of arrival. My part is only to rest in faith that the ship is already at sea, carrying my good toward me under perfect navigation. And so, with a heart emptied of concern, I close the day in peace. I do not carry yesterday's debts into tomorrow's dawn. There is a sacred strength in repetition. Just as the lamp must be refilled with oil to keep its flame steady, so must the consciousness be renewed through daily faith. When I prescribe this ritual to my students, I ask them to keep it faithfully for 7 consecutive days. 7. The number of completion, the cycle through which seed becomes blossom. Each morning, gratitude. Each night, release. 7 candles of faith, lit in silence, each one brighter than the last. Do not break the chain, even if you feel weary or doubtful. The law does not test you, it calibrates your certainty. By the 7th day you will feel the shift, subtle, profound. The air around you seems clearer, your thoughts lighter, your speech more commanding. Opportunities begin to stir where there was once stagnation. Money flows as though remembering its rightful home. I tell them, this is no spell of superstition, it is the reordering of vibration. When you speak daily with faith, when you bless your unseen wealth and rest in divine timing, you draw the invisible into visibility. The ritual of the first million is not about numbers, it is about remembrance. It is the conscious recognition that abundance is not earned or begged, but allowed. Perform it as a sacred vow, not to fortune, but to faith. Keep your 7 nights as one might tend the flame of a holy lamp, and when the week has passed, you will find that something within you has shifted permanently. You will no longer chase your good will know where to find you. And that, dear soul, is the true beginning of your first million. There comes a moment in every life when the strain breaks, when the endless chasing, the anxious asking, the weary hoping, finally gives way to quiet recognition. It is not surrender born of defeat, but of awakening. I remember the night I first felt it, a stillness so profound that it seemed the entire city held its breath. Outside, the lamps flickered along the avenue. Inside, the last page of my ledger lay open on the desk. The figures were red, the columns uneven, and yet I felt a curious peace. I closed my eyes, and something within me whispered, "You have been asking for what is already yours." And in that instant, I understood. I had spent years instructing others in the law, but that night I knew it, not as theory, but as truth. I saw as clear as sunrise that there is no reluctant universe withholding its treasures. There is only our own refusal to recognize them. I do not petition a reluctant universe. I announce what is already granted in spirit. I do not chase wealth. I choose to stand where it already flows. I do not plead for supply. I declare alignment with the source that never withholds. Life is not a game of pursuit. It is a mirror of recognition. What you know yourself to be, the world must reflect. When the word becomes pure, the mirror clears. When resistance falls away, the tide turns. When giving becomes joy and order replaces haste. When intuition guides and faith obeys, the current of life begins to move through you unhindered. I feel it now, the gathering rhythm, the pulse of the divine law moving in perfect symmetry. Everything I have spoken of, the mirror, the word, the circulation, the order, the silent messenger within, they are not separate truths but one radiant law, a law that does not bend to effort but to faith. A law that does not reward labor, but recognition. A law that does not demand pursuit, but presence. So now, as the listener, I ask you to join me in the decree that completes this teaching. Speak it aloud, softly if you wish, but with all your heart. The universe does not measure volume, only conviction. Repeat after me. My first million recognizes me. I am easy to find. Say it once more, but this time feel the words as if they were already true. For they are. My first million recognizes me. I am easy to find. Do you feel the stillness that follows? That quiet, golden hum in the air? That is alignment, the precise moment when your inner decree and divine law meet as one. Now see the image before you, a great ledger open upon the desk of heaven. For so long its lines have glowed red with the tally of human worry, debts of fear, accounts of doubt. But now, as dawn light touches the page, the color begins to shift. Slowly, tenderly, the red turns to black, balance restored, harmony renewed. You hear, in that vast silence, the soft toll of a distant bell, the hour of release. The law has spoken, the chase is over. You are recognized. You are remembered by the abundance that has been yours since the beginning of time. The game is not to run faster, it is to awaken sooner. The mirror reflects perfectly now. Your word is aligned, the tide has turned, the circuit flows, the divine ledger stands balanced in your favor. And so, with calm certainty, I speak the truth that ends all striving. I do not seek prosperity, I remember it. I do not reach for my first million, it reaches for me. I do not beg for supply, I bless the law that sustains me. For abundance is not earned, it is revealed, and revelation always comes to the heart that is quiet, obedient, and free. So breathe deeply now. Feel the light expanding in your chest, not as a hope, but as a remembrance. This is who you are: the mirror, the word, the current, the channel. You are the order through which the law fulfills itself. And as surely as the sun rises over the harbor, your good, your wealth, your peace, your perfect provision now rises to meet you. It was never lost. It was only waiting for your recognition. And now, as this teaching draws to a close, I speak a blessing over you, as one who has seen the law at work, unfailing and eternal. May divine order arrange your affairs with perfect precision. May the right doors open before you, without struggle or strain. May your home be filled with peace, your work with joy, and your accounts with plenty. May every channel of your good open quietly, gracefully, in its rightful time. I bless your words. May they be wands that heal, comfort, and create beauty wherever they are spoken. I bless your giving. May it be like bread cast upon the waters, returning to you multiplied and overflowing. And I bless your sleep, that you may rest without worry, knowing that the invisible currents of spirit are already setting your good in motion. As you rise tomorrow, may you walk as one who is already supplied, already chosen, already recognized by the abundance that has known your name since before you asked. May every breath remind you that the source of all provision lives within you and acts through you, now and always. Remember this truth: nothing you have declared in faith is lost. The word once spoken is law set in motion, and that law will fulfill itself in your affairs with quiet accuracy. Now let us seal this teaching together through a shared act of faith, a declaration that carries your vibration into the world. Speak it or write it, but do so as a vow between your heart and the infinite. I speak my world into being. Those words are no idle phrase. They are the living key to creation. By uttering them, you affirm your power to align with divine law, the same power that moves the stars, the same current that brings your first million, your perfect health, your rightful joy. And as this truth blesses you, I ask that you let it circulate, for circulation is the law of increase. Share this teaching as you would share a good word or a loaf of bread, not for recognition, but as an act of faith. Each time you pass the message forward, you prove the very principle we have spoken of, that giving returns multiplied. What you give in light, you cannot lose. So let the current flow. Speak your world into being, bless what leaves you, and watch it return in greater measure. And as the final seal upon this hour of faith, I whisper the same words that have closed every prayer I have ever spoken, words that stand like the quiet toll of the bell when all striving ends. Thank you, Father, that it is done. Now rest in that truth. The law is working. The ledger is balanced. Your first million, your rightful good, is already on its way, guided by the hand of divine order. And so it is.